Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is MrHurriicane, and this is going to be my first Madden 20 wishlist video that I make. We are close to 3 months into Madden 19's life cycle, and I want to start talking about where I think the game needs to go from here. The gameplay in this video will be from my series that I'm doing on Madden 19. I'm doing a Cardinals rebuild series over on my second channel, along with a Marquise Walker quarterback career mode series. My main franchise, the Miami Dolphins series, that's on a break right now, and there's no ETA on the return or anything right now for that series. I talked about it last week, the reasons why I'm not doing this series right now, and I have so many other things that I'm creating right now and I'm having fun with, so that's not even a big focus of mine at the moment. But I did want to start off here talking Madden 20 wish list. And I just wanted to get underway first by kind of recapping my thoughts on Madden 19 to this point. And I'm sure that after watching the video from last week, if you did, the one where I talked about taking a break from the Dolphins franchise, you can tell that I'm not really satisfied with where the game is at right now. And keep in mind, I am solely this year an offline versus CPU player in this game. I don't play online, I don't play Ultimate Team, I don't do online franchise, I only play against the computer. And for someone who wants that experience, the traditional Madden experience you could call it, I don't think the game has met expectations. It's fallen short in a lot of areas. Madden 18 was the year where franchise was almost untouched. We did get some improvements this year in franchise mode, but a lot of it is overshadowed by gameplay issues. And I think that whether you enjoy offline this year comes down to, are your sliders fixing enough things to cater to your needs? And for me right now, it's not happening. Normally, I'd like to come on here and talk about like franchise features I like, and we're going to get to that. But make no mistake, the biggest problems in Madden are gameplay issues. My biggest gripes are with the CPU quarterback AI and the CPU running AI. Then you get into things like play calling I'm not very happy with. Simulation stats aren't very good. There are some big foundational problems, I think, in the Madden series right now. I think at the least we need to have more tools to help us mitigate those issues. I also think that if this were the last Madden game in the series, we would not look at it the same way that many of us look at NCAA Football 14. Not that that game is perfect, and Madden certainly does a lot of things better than NCAA did, but the overall result when you're playing games in NCAA to me is more satisfying than playing Madden 19. I think that the issues that I've talked about in Madden 19 and that we'll get into further hold it back from being a great football game. So let's get into it. I think that the first thing that needs to happen with Madden 20 is that the CPU quarterback AI needs to be completely redone. The AI in this game is among the worst quarterback AI I've seen in a game from the Madden series. While we've received gameplay changes in recent years, we have not received better quarterback AI to handle all the changes. I play on all Madden sliders when I'm trying to play offline franchise, but I also do a series on my second channel where I only watch CPU versus CPU default all-pro gameplay, which is essentially where the game truly is. There are moments where it does look good, but those tend to be when there's no pressure on the quarterback and he gets wide open looks. As soon as you introduce pressure into the equation, the AI doesn't know how to handle it. They scramble at bad angles, they don't throw the football away when they're supposed to, they don't step up in the pocket. Let me roll this clip here. This is one I've saved because I knew eventually I'd have a use for it. This is NCAA Football 14 playing on Heisman sliders against the quarterback who is probably like an 80 overall or something close to that. This is a pretty subtle action here by the quarterback, but to me it was so satisfying to see. We get some mild interior pressure, he doesn't overreact, he simply slides a couple steps, finds comfort in the pocket, and throws a strike between two linebackers. That's football right there. I understand that a lot of people want to play against other people, and that's cool, there's nothing wrong with that, but I still think there is a large population in the Madden community that wants to play offline. Most of their games are going to be against the computer, and we need a better computer to face. I also think there is a large group of people who aren't playing the game because of this. The quarterback AI these last couple of years has actually driven the direction of my player-based series choices. On Madden 18, I played as a running back, And the AI that controlled Andrew Luck for the Colts was so bad I had to leave. And then I realized I couldn't play with any quarterback who was mobile and wanted to scramble. So I had to specifically play with a pocket passer to get some decent quarterback AI. And once we got there, it got to an acceptable level. It was actually pretty good for the most part. Now in Madden 19, I'm simply playing as the quarterback because then I don't have to worry about the AI. I wanted to play defense this year, and the main reason I didn't from the beginning is because they removed the player-based player lock camera. For some reason, that absolutely needs to come back. There was no reason to remove it, or at least make it an option to use it. That was a really poor decision, but it put me on the offensive side, and now I haven't had to watch the quarterback AI in that series, so a big win for me. Also, it's an area of Madden 19 I'm legitimately having a really good time playing. They've done some really good things with defense, tightening up zone coverage, and the receiver DB interactions. I'm feeling that's getting a lot better. My main problems are with the CPU offense. I have no major complaints about defense right now. I think that it's really fun to play up against the CPU defense. I'm glad they're driving this series and the gameplay in that direction. It's getting a lot more realistic for defense to be able to contest certain plays that would normally be easy and force you to switch up your plans and to try out new things and to really think about how you're going to approach every play. The problem is that the AI hasn't been updated to make the same kind of decisions that we're able to adjust to as people. From my experiences in Madden 19, the quarterback AI hardly seems touched from Madden 18's. Then we get into the running AI, and that needs a lot of improvements. They have worked on it through the patches so far, and they've done a good job with the updates, I think, putting a lot into them, but it hasn't really taken the quarterback AI or running back AI to where it needs to be. Running backs do not do a very good job running outside the tackles. They tend to do best on inside zone with very soft boxes. So we're talking as few blockers as you can have in there, as few linebackers and defensive linemen. They do a lot better when there's less to think about and there's less to navigate around. When they bring in all these tight ends and try to run outside, maybe on a toss or a stretch, they usually lose yards. They also spam their moves way too often. It has gotten better since the updates, but it's still not completely fixed. If we just had the running back AI and the quarterback AI from NCAA 14 in this game, it would be so much better. And the AI in that game is even flawed. There are problems, but the problems from the NCAA 14 AI don't keep them from being productive like in Madden. I'd much rather have the AI be overpowered than underpowered. I don't play Ultimate Team any longer, but I'm assuming that this is probably one of the easier years for solo challenges when it comes to the challenges that have the CPU with possession. Their defense is probably pretty good, but their offense probably very easy to defeat. Those two things right there are the biggest problems that I think exist in this game, because even if there are issues in franchise or whatever, you need to be able to sit down and play some good games of football, and for me it's been really tough this year. Moving on from that, I want to talk about the playbooks now and a little bit of CPU play calling. The AI in this game drastically needs updates in a lot of different areas. I'll talk about some different things soon, I promise. But the playbooks, for one, I run into too many playbooks that are just really bad. The Dolphins playbook, I think, is one of the worst. The Vikings playbook has been bad for a number of Maddens now. I think that there are enough plays overall in the game to create good playbooks, but we need to reorganize them and to get some variety in some of the more stale playbooks. There are definitely some newer strategies that need to have a larger presence in Madden, whether it be the fly sweeps and the fake fly sweeps, all the misdirection screens and the screen game in general, pick routes. Those things don't really have a great spot in the game right now. But overall, there are a lot of good plays, and I'll run into some playbooks, like Arizona's, I think, for instance, is one where I'm just like, wow, this is really impressive. I put together a custom game plan in that playbook, and I like that playbook a lot. But the playbooks are really hit or miss. We can make our own custom playbooks, but keep in mind for the offline experience that I'm looking for against the CPU, I want to see their playbooks improve, and especially their game plans. I don't really understand the game planning in Madden right now and the plays that the CPU chooses. They use tight ends more than pretty much any NFL team, and they love to run these power concepts. And not only are those plays not used as much anymore with like 2 tight ends and a fullback, but those are the plays the CPU struggles to run the most. I also get tired of the constant spam of the shot plays. They've obviously designed the AI to want to stretch the field quite a bit, and that's a good idea, but constantly doing it with play action shot plays is a little much, especially if it's in long yardage situations and you're faking to the running back for some reason. I don't like the shot plays in the game very much, but there is a place for them. I just think it's overdone. The next thing I want to talk about is the inclusion of a lot more sliders and ways to control the game experience. We've always had sliders in these sports games, but a lot of games do it better than others. MLB The Show is one example. Also, NHL does a lot with their sliders that you can control. And in Madden, we only have a few sliders that we can tweak, and it's hard to really understand what they even do because there's a huge domino effect, and these sliders control more than just one thing. The tackle slider, for instance, I have found it to also relate to block shedding, and that controls like the entire running game. If I have a tackle slider, I want it to only control the success rate on average of tackling, and that's how sliders should be. They need to be simple. Break these up into multiple pieces so we can actually affect the area that we're looking to change. I don't like having to mess with sliders and do so much testing to see what domino effects have taken place. Then you have a slider like pass coverage. That needs to be broken up. Man coverage and zone coverage are completely different. How can we have just one slider to control the effectiveness of those things? We need more sliders, with each slider having less impact, affecting a specific part of the game, and we also need the scaling to work. If there is a 0 to 100 slider, and we're playing with something like wide receiver catching, 0 should be, they literally can't catch the football, and 100 should be, they can't drop the football. Those scales need to actually work. There are so many people that go through pass defense reaction time and pass coverage, and they can't tell the difference 0 to 100. If all those things were able to be addressed, I think the game would be taken to a new level. I want to be able to tailor the game to my play style, and it's very difficult to attempt that given the tools we have right now. The rest of the video is going to be talking about franchise mode. It was nice to see some improvements made in the mode this year, but obviously there's still much work to do. And I think that the direction with the coach schemes and the scheme fits, that was a really good idea. I think you can take it to a new level next year if we can get coordinators in the game, just like in NCAA Football 14. I love those skill trees. It gave every coach a sense of identity as a coach. There are certain coaches that helped out run blocking and breaking tackles, and if that's what you want your offense to be about, you should be able to get a coordinator that boosts that part of the game. When Mike Zimmer came to Minnesota, he turned the 32nd ranked defense into one of the best in the NFL because, partially, he's really good at helping out defensive backs, and the coverage play from Minnesota got so much better in his time here. Do you remember Jared Goff's quarterback play as a rookie? It looks nothing like the play that he's putting on the field now with Sean McVay as his coach. That's what Madden needs right there. I don't think that it needs to have a huge impact like increasing ratings by an absurd amount, but if we could simply get a coach that gave us a +2 or 3 in man and zone coverage and play recognition, or boosted up our pass blocking a little bit, I think it would add significant depth to franchise mode. And it would also further increase the value of fitting your scheme. By the way, one more thing I think Madden 19 does pretty well is the new archetype upgrade system. I think it was a good idea to implement something like that. I feel that it was better than just being able to get XP from doing anything you do and then putting it into all sorts of stuff that you just wanted to focus on. It was too video gamey for me. That's not what I'm looking for. The next thing I think franchise needs is progressive injuries. We see this all the time in the NFL. Depth is so important. Every week for fantasy football, people want to see who's in, who's out, and in Madden, it's just not a very interesting part of the game. I obviously want to see different types of major injuries in the game that keep players out for weeks or a whole season, but also I'd like to see us have a situation where you actually have to decide if you're going to play a player. We have a system in the game now, the big decision injury choice, where you bring back a player early from injury, and it's usually not worth it because the ratings that are going down are pretty key, whether it's strength or something else. So I don't like how that's handled. It's always an easy decision to say, I'm not going to bring back that player. I wish it was more like, hey, you can play this player. There's a low chance of him getting hurt, but he is going to have -2 speed, acceleration, and agility this week. Is it worth it to you? It would also be cool if we had players who are maybe 90% healthy, or maybe there's a player who has a hamstring injury, and those can affect a large portion of your season if you try to play through it. And you could have like a situation in the game where you have something telling you, hey, if you sit this player for 3 weeks, he'll likely be 100%, but you can play him now and risk injury if you really want to play that player. And that's something you see every year with players who have nagging hamstring injuries. It takes a while for those to get back to normal. Also, when it comes to minor injuries that happen in-game, so often I've seen a player suffer a minor injury, but at a certain point in the game, they're back to 100%. They might have had like a shoulder injury or something, and I would like for the rest of that game, they should have an injury effect on them, even if they're healthy enough to play. Imagine if your quarterback in the game suffers a minor shoulder injury and you can play him, but he has like -3 to all his accuracies and -2 throw power. I think that would be awesome. Along with that, I'd also like to see morale in the game, although I'm not sure that's like the next step. I think that the things I've talked about prior are more important right now, but at some point I'd love to see a morale system in the game, especially because it's hard to replicate players who are good but underperform in a video game like this. So in the case of like MLB, they have a morale system I like quite a bit, although it's too easy to give your players good morale just by overpaying them or whatever. But imagine if you had a player who wasn't getting the football as much as he wanted to. Maybe he's unhappy about his contract and his ratings take a little hit as a result. There is the confidence feature in the game. I don't think it's fleshed out enough, but it's there so that if you have a lot of bad performances for certain players, eventually their confidence does affect their ratings, and they can play worse or better based on what's been happening that season. So I like to see that taken to the next level. Next, I want to talk about simulation stats. If you play Franchise, you know that the stats are ridiculous this year. Quarterbacks rarely ever run in the simulations this year. All the leading receivers at season's end are just slot receivers who for some reason get a lot of volume in this game. And the running game stats don't look very good. You get all these 2 and 3 yard runs, and then the good running backs will break off the occasional long touchdown. So I think that the sim engine, not only when you sim to the next week, but also when you're in game and you're simming, maybe you're playing the moments or only playing one side of the football, the simulation engine needs a lot of improvements. Those are the main things I wanted to talk about today. There are other ideas that I have, and I might make some individual videos on them. There's actually one from Madden 04 that is going to be something I talk about soon, and I plan to also stream something from that game, actually. I was testing out something the other day, and I definitely want to get into this one mode for at least a stream, maybe more. But that's it for this wish list. That covers the big things that I'm looking for. There are some other small things, but I wanted to keep this to mainly the things I thought were critical to having a better game of Madden to play next year. I think that for the last couple of years, we haven't seen enough improvements in these areas, and I don't think that the experience for those that want to play against the computer mainly is very good. It does show potential. I know before the patches all started rolling in, I had the gameplay where I wanted it. There were still some issues, but I was getting some fun games, and then once all the updates rolled in, it became really hard to get sliders to a spot where I was happy playing the game. I'm enjoying my quarterback career mode series right now, and my rebuild series, where I spend a lot of time watching CPU versus CPU games on Default All Pro. There are some problems, but it's one of my favorite things to do in Madden. I found the Browns rebuild formula early this year on Madden 18, and it's been the most fun that I've had on Madden since. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and you can leave your feedback down below in the comments. I'll see you all later. Have a great day.